Meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7:01. Please stand for a moment of silence. Please stand silently for a moment of reflection and respect. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fire evacuation announcements. Double doors behind you, out the double doors, down to the parking lot. Double doors to my left, your right, down the stairs and out to the parking lot. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Acree?
Here.
Dr. Kalman?
Here.
Mr. Hamre?
Here.
Mrs. Pickett?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Madam Chair?
Here. Item 6, invited board guests. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Is the light on?
If the light's on, yeah. I got that memo, but I don't want to sit on poor Kathy's lap. So there we go. Thank you. Thanks, Lori. Tonight we welcome members of the school K-12, the Board of Ed appointed school K-12 School Modernization Committee. But before they come up this evening, I just thought I would take a quick second, because I know everyone hates listening to me talk, to remind everybody, especially the members of the council who are joining us this evening, on how we got to this point. If you pay attention to Board of Ed meetings throughout the duration of this school year, we've talked a lot in this chamber about the needs of our kids, how the needs of our kids have changed, particularly over the last 10 to 12 years, and ultimately culminated with a budget presentation that I mentioned some of the space constraints that we're having in some of our schools, in addition to the supports that we have to provide for our kids. The second to last Board of Education meeting, we had an invited guest, which is Mr. John Daig, who really solidified what the choices that we have to start talking about as a community are. As most of you know, our current elementary school structure with primary and intermediate schools, the 6 schools that we currently house our students in, they're older facilities. And the town manager and I, she's not getting off the hook, she's behind me, but she's going to trade with me soon. We've been having ongoing conversations about essentially the 11 of you, not the 9 of you, ultimately fund the capital improvements for these facilities. The facilities are a bit dated. They do, as you know, will require work. And as we get into the budget process, we rely on the council to appropriate funding in order to pay for the updated needed repairs and maintenance. But essentially, as a school district, and my responsibility is I can only go so far. We have a current structure in place. We have aging facilities. The direction that I needed from the board was, do we keep going along this path with just requesting funding from the town to update these facilities? They are old buildings, and anybody who has a home or owns anything, as things get older, they get more expensive. Or do we want to look at something different? The board would ultimately make that decision and then come back to the town council if something was deviating from the current structure. And the board's will was that they wanted to hear from stakeholders in the community before a decision like that was made. So that the creation of the School Modernization Committee was the fruit of the labor of the board at that point. The committee has been meeting under an aggressive schedule, and I want to thank them all who participated in this for a number of reasons. One, there are time constraints because, as I said, as council members know, there are a list of projects that you guys have to pay for, and that'll have a big impact on budget deliberations as they're coming up. So if we were going to deviate from the existing structure, it's better to know that information now so that we can plan more appropriately. And ultimately, we need to, as a responsibility of myself and the manager, is to present you guys with plans on what the future of this town and the district are going to look like. So that's where we are this evening. The committee met, as I said, under an aggressive time frame. They had an opportunity to tour every one of our facilities within the district. They had an opportunity to hear from key stakeholders, including our teachers and our staff members. A lot of you were there as part of the tour, so I thank you for taking a lot of nights out to do this important work. And ultimately, the committee is going to address the board tonight, but we thought it was important for the council to hear this as well, because ultimately this is a community decision. This isn't something that one of us unilaterally can make. It has to be bought in from everybody, starting with the 20 of you, but ultimately, if we deviate from where we are, this is something that the entire community needs to weigh in on. So at this point, I will turn it back over to who's going first.
Mr. Ryder's going to say a few
Oh,
words.
I'm sorry. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Ryder and shut up.
I would just like to welcome the town council members to this meeting, and I hope you find it as informative as we have found over the last 4 days. So, Mr. Ryder?
So this process, as Mr. Dresik just alluded to, began a couple of meetings ago, where we have identified that we can't just put Band-Aids on buildings that are 50, 60 years old or more. And because we do have budget season coming up, as well as facilities and projects coming up over the next couple of years, and we don't want to do that without a secure plan for our school buildings. And as we know, schools attract families, people moving in and starting a family. Look at school districts, school facilities, school rankings in our state as very important key factors to choosing where they might choose to set up to live. So after that meeting that we had, we immediately opened up applications on the website through the Board of Ed's website. That was shared from many of the Board of Ed members, as well as social media, et cetera. We were happy to receive approximately 34 to 36 applications. And from that, we've chosen 15 permanent members of the School Modernization Committee. And that is a mix of both school staff, residents. We looked at where they worked, what qualifications they may or not have, what input they may or not be able to share, as well as their community presence, whether they're involved with some PTOs, whether they're involved with children's athletics in town, whether it be soccer, softball, et cetera, because we know it's important and people are going to have questions. And we know that they might know the coach that works with the softball team, or they might know the mom that helps out with soccer. And the more people that we thought had sort of the reach to help us with whatever we decide here, then we'd have kind of more mouths and more people to share that information with everybody. So I also want to thank our 15 members of the School Modernization Committee. I also want to thank our liaisons that were part of this from both the Town Council and the Board of Ed. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention to Town Councilor Ken Nelson, Deputy Mayor Gina Sakala, our Mayor, Bob Crisati, or our Town Council liaisons from the school board, Ms. Janet Cushman and myself, and as well as our Chair, Tina LeBlanc. So a little bit about what we've done the last 2 weeks. So we've basically spent, well, I say 2 weeks, but I mean this week and last. Basically, we spent every night together over the last couple of weeks touring all our facilities that house and educate our children from the pre-K age level through grade 5. From those tours, we saw firsthand the majority of the issues, at least the major issues, that are needed to be addressed in the coming years. We toured Stowe, Eagle Academy, Hazard Memorial School and Eli Whitney, Henry Barnard and Prudence Crandall, Enfield Street, and Parkman. We had working meetings at JFK. And the reason why we chose to do that last night, to conclude this process of these tours of 4 nights out of 4 evenings out of like 7 weeknights together, was because we wanted the School Modernization Committee members to see what a school could look like. There was a lot of features at JFK that excited, especially our staff members. From simple things to how well thought out and how obvious it was that the people that we eventually hired and helped us create these buildings worked with our staff and our department heads and our administrators. You could see why something was done a certain way. It wasn't an accident that a garage door was put just outside of the technology room. It wasn't an accident that the classrooms are the size they are. It's not an accident that you're able to move these tables around and chairs so you can change how you teach our students. It's not an accident that we have speakers in the ceiling so everybody can hear no matter where they are in a classroom. These things aren't accidents, but a lot of what's happened to our buildings over the years could be classified as that because we don't want our students to have anything less than what our middle schoolers and our high schools have been gifted with from this town over the last couple of years. So I wanted to first ask Vicki McLeod to come up to speak this evening. She's one of our members who was volunteered last evening, and she's going to speak about some of the space issues that we came across on these tours over the last week and a half. So, Vicki? Oh, yes, Superintendent Drezek.
Sorry, and while Vicky's getting up there, I did leave one part out, and I apologize. Especially as we mentioned budget thing, we forgot to mention the most important thing. What really drove this conversation to begin was we have, and working very closely with our partners at DPW, sort of a baseline projection on how much this is going to cost the town of Enfield just to keep what we currently have. And right now, that number is estimated about $36 million. But anyone who's done any kind of project, especially in the last couple of years, that was sort of pre-COVID, the world we live in now. There's a sense that would be significantly higher. So really, it came down to we're going to be responsible for at least $36 million worth of improvements to our existing structure. Is now the time to look at something else. So I failed to mention the most important part, which was the money. And for members of the council, if you didn't get an opportunity to see John Daig's presentation to the board from 3 weeks ago, I believe it's been emailed to all of you today. And if you didn't receive it, just let me know and we'll make sure you have an opportunity to see that. It is on YouTube as well, but the subsequent documents are part of a package we can send to you, as well as being on our website.
And to the superintendent's point, that $36 million number is if we did everything tomorrow. That's at today's dollars,
That's
which we
only
would.
what things cost today,
Correct.
and not what you find when you start fixing stuff.
Correct.
So, Vicki, I'm sorry. Now I'll be
Oh,
quiet.
no, you like interrupting. That's okay.
So, Vicki, when you sit down, if you could just make sure the red light's on, and then if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Vicki McLeod. Okay. Do I have to say it?
Just your name and address for the record.
Oh, address. I'm sorry. Vicki McLeod, 79 Raffia Road, Enfield,
Thank you.
Connecticut. All right. Hello. I want to thank you again for taking the time to have the committee here and speak upon the many concerns our elementary schools are facing. Today, we broke this meeting into 4 sections: space, facilities, family impact, and academics. Each pose valuable information and reason to why we are here today. Tonight, we will start with a presentation on space. Over the last 2 weeks, we toured our elementary schools and we walked through these schools. The same issue arose: space. Outside of the grade level classrooms, we saw many spaces being converted or shared. OT, PT being adapted into spaces, even if they may not be all ADA compliant. Calming, sensory, quiet spaces don't really exist. They're more put off into areas that may or may not work for each one of these buildings. Social work, CHC, they too are sharing spaces. Special education, reading, math, writing, speech therapy. These sessions can be happening at the same time at these schools, making the noise levels high, distracting for the students. Often teachers are packing up their things and trying to move to another area that may accommodate those needs. The interruption is there. We're interrupting class time by doing that. Our staff are traveling with loaded carts with equipment. Privacy. It doesn't exist. It's not there. These converted spaces are our students' gymnasiums, cafeterias, stages being converted to OT-PT units, closets. They are being used outside of its purpose for, again, classroom settings, office settings. Our elementary school settings are clearly showing signs of challenges and difficulties. An example was Stowe is serving multiple hats and is one of the smallest schools in town. It poses roughly 480 students throughout the day, from what I heard, making the foot traffic very high in that one building alone throughout the day, let alone just the needs for the early education population that currently lives there. We have Head Start, AM, PM, full day, pre-K, ECDC, KITE, integrated PK, STEAM, family resource centers, all in one building. This school is one of our first sites our families are being introduced to when coming into the Enfield Public School systems. Families, staff, students are struggling, and it's time for a change. And again, thank you for letting me speak on the space issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, to address facilities overall and what we saw over the last week and a half, Jessica Soul.
Hi, my name is Jessica Soul. I live at 10 Brook Road in Enfield. Thank you to the board and to the council members for being here. Sorry. Thank you to the board and council members for being here tonight to listen to our findings and recommendations. Our staff and our students deserve safe and efficient buildings. Over the past week, our committee has visited 8 of the elementary schools. We were allowed to see and feel firsthand a few of the conditions experienced by staff, students, and custodians. Some of these issues are clearly visible or felt, and some of the concerns may be hiding in ceilings, under floor tiles, or behind the walls, unnoticed until repair work is going to begin. What we can see is how the physical environment greatly impacts the work and learning of our staff and students. Some of the most immediate concerns and needs for our elementary buildings are: the heating and cooling systems do not maintain a consistent or comfortable temperature in various areas of the building. There are even significant variations within the same hallway. 3 of the schools have boilers that will need to be replaced soon. There are 5 school parking lots that need significant repairs, and some need to be expanded to allow for more staff to park, or some need to be completely replaced. One elementary school struggles to accommodate as many as 17 buses, 3 daycare vans, 2 short buses, and parents in line for pickup in the afternoons. This may cause traffic jams on some of our main roads. Elementary schools also enjoy hosting events that parents can attend, but the parking is sometimes inadequate, and families have to park on the grass, up in unlit areas, and even on the sidewalks, and this can cause accessibilities and safety issues. As was mentioned already, some of the adapted spaces, including OT and PT, need repairs and remodeling to be within ADA compliance. There is a need for more restrooms for staff and students. Electrical panels are maxed out in some schools due to window unit air conditioners and a huge growth in technology use by students and staff. This might be a charging station for iPads or laptop carts. Some buildings have potential air quality and mold concerns that directly affect students and staff with respiratory issues. There is a lack of outlets in classrooms. Some classrooms only have 3 standard outlets. Window replacement is one of the biggest costs for the elementary schools. Most have single pane glass. They're not energy efficient. Some have wood casings, and not all the windows have screens. In some places, broken windows have been replaced with plexiglass panels. 4 schools are scheduled to have their roofs replaced at this time. There are similar issues regarding the doors. Many are not energy efficient. As Mr. Dresik mentioned earlier, it will cost at least $36 million right now to maintain what we have in place. It does not take into account any unexpected needs that may arise, and there are needs that are becoming necessary that are not included in that $36 million. Looking ahead to safety and security, ideally there would be double sets of doors at all main entrances. There would be security cameras around the building and including blind spots. There would be steel bollards in front of the building to create a clearly marked barrier to the entrances. Reflective film on the glass for privacy of students and staff at entrances. Doorknobs that lock from the inside of classrooms, special areas, and all offices. Ideally, we could install badge readers for all doors to ensure they remain locked at all times. Brighter exterior and parking lot lighting for the security of students, staff, and family who are attending events. Technology upgrades should also be looked at. Phones that can call out should be in all classrooms. Wi-Fi upgrades that support the upgraded technology and use of multiple devices. This would also allow for future expansion as our technology does continue to grow. In conclusion, I'd like to reiterate the physical environment of our elementary buildings greatly affects the work and learning of our staff and students. I urge you to consider doing more than maintaining the status quo, as our staff and especially our students deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
And now for the School Modernization Committee's perspective on family impact, Maureen Griffin.
Hello, all. I'm just a mom who cares about the kids. Okay. What does the reality of a split K2, 3-5 school setup look like for families? You have 5, 6, and 7-year-olds spending up to an hour on a bus every morning to get to their school that's not even 10 minutes from their home. You have parents that must get one child on the bus and walk another to the other school in the morning, and then be sure to get them home safely in the afternoon. You have a confusing variety of communication sources and apps providing an overwhelming amount of information about spirit days, events, activities, and fundraisers, often on differing schedules. Children in need of before and after care have to travel even more. And that's just the basic daily logistics. More importantly, this setup undermines the sense of community and ease of family engagement that is so important to the overall well-being of our kids. You may ask how so. If you have children in both levels, I've done the 3-school rush. It's not fun. You have double the open house evenings, PTO offerings, and requests for participation, and a wide array of other school activities that your children ask to take part in. And they very much want their parents to join them to see their accomplishments at this age. It's a rare family that has the flexibility to go to them all when all are doubled in quantity. So, is the benefit of going K through 5 all about easing logistics? Hardly. It's the potential for a sense of belonging, security, partnership, support, and shared dreams that has the time to develop over the years. It's becoming known as individuals and families join together as a community. What might this look like? A sense of it being worth becoming more deeply involved because your family is going to be at the school for 6 years, at a minimum, not just a 3-year pit stop. As parents get to know each other, the connections upon which real community is built have a chance to form. The veteran families not only welcome the new, but they can become friends and resources to turn to in our ever more fractured society. Our families face many difficulties. Getting to know and trust the teachers and staff does make it a little easier to ask for support when needed. For the children, these relationships can provide a sense of safety where they can share their fears and needs. Our children need to feel safe in order to learn and grow. As the children move up in grade, they don't have to start anew with all unfamiliar faces and places at just 8 years old. They have had exposure to the rhythms and routines of the intermediate level just down the hall and can focus on learning more and adjusting less. The benefits extend to the older children as well. As they become the big kids, they have opportunities to grow in responsibility and empathy as they become the ones that the littles look up to. This is especially sweet when it's an older sibling easing the way for a younger. The children and parents are all more confident from the start. It really is the way to be.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you.
And then representing the School Modernizations Committee, reflections on the academics, Kelsey Bruce McGuire.
Kelsey McGuire Bruce, 63 Neelands Road. All right. I first want to thank you all for being here tonight and listening to what we have to say. This is important work for our town, and we appreciate your time. You have heard about our space issues, you've heard about the issues within our facilities, and you've heard about how the K-2 3-5 model has impacted our families. Now we want to tell you how all 3 of these areas directly affect the most important part of our district, our students. Consistency is key for students at all ages. In our current model, students come to kindergarten, and by the time they get acclimated to their school and truly begin to blossom, we're shifting them to a whole new building with all new staff, expectations, routines, procedures, and even schedules. Academically, there is an impact on our students. We can see this through data presented at previous meetings that the transition grades are seeing the most academic challenges. The students transitioning to new buildings is impacting their ability to fully access their academics. Students are transitioning from learning to read at the K-2 level to reading to learn at the 3-5 level. This is a huge jump academically, and at the same time, we're throwing a transition into a new school building right at them. Specials times vary at different levels. Certain ages don't get the same education in these specials areas. For example, PE is 45 minutes at the K-2 and only 34 a year later at the 3 to 5 level. K-2 only has STEAM every 2 weeks, whereas the 3 to 5 gets it weekly. So things are varying there too. In this current model, the service providers and other staff inconsistencies becomes challenging for students. Classroom teachers are often disconnected during the transition from 2nd to 3rd grade. There is a lack of ability to communicate about the students' academics and behaviors between the two schools. Plans may be put in place to help a child be successful in one school, and it's not always able to be fully communicated or fully put into place in the new school. Teachers being able to walk down the hall, communicate with a colleague about what worked to help a student be successful in the prior year is something that cannot be replicated in our current school model. Speech, special education, interventions, therapies, and other related services also change when students are transitioning to a new building. This means that our students with the highest level of needs are having to rebuild trust and rapport with all of these new service providers. This is often causing additional regression, both academically and behaviorally. Procedures and school expectations change during the transition to the 3 to 5 school. It can take the first few months of 3rd grade to completely understand the new school. The average child does not feel comfortable in their new building until at least Thanksgiving. This time frame can be even longer for some of our higher needs students. This lack of confidence and comfort in the new building means that they're not fully ready to access their learning. The behavior system, PBIS, which is used across our schools, can look different too. The concepts may be the same, but the expectations, acronyms, they're all different. Additionally, the 3 to 5 level no longer has a PBIS coach to support this work on behavior at the 3 to 5 level. With our current model, we are often asking 2nd graders to become role models. But does that really mean that this age is ready to do that? If we go back to the K-5 model, we can have true role models for younger students. Programs like Student Council, Reading Buddies would be exciting to implement back into our schools at the K-5 model. These transitions to a new school can be challenging for student behaviors. Transitions can escalate behaviors at any age, but we especially see this at the end of 2nd grade with the anxieties of moving and leaving what the child is familiar with begins. Students that struggle with regulating their emotions and behaviors in their K-2 school tend to escalate again in the 3 to 5 school, at least until they can be reacclimated to the new building and new expectations and the new team that they're working with. Success that is seen in other schools with other staff members may not transfer over to the new schools. The sense of community and connection with staff members is also very impactful on our students. Relationships and connections take time to build. Students spend time building relationships with staff in their school, and in the current model, once those connections have been fully established, the staff changes, and they're faced with trying to find a sense of community all over again. Trust in staff and familiarity with staff eases stress and anxieties, which allows the child to feel more comfortable and emotionally safe in order to access their learning. Before students can be expected to learn, they need to feel emotionally safe. They need to feel like they belong, and they need to feel part of their school community. The transition from school to school makes this very challenging for our students. As you can see, our students are very much impacted by the current district model. Everything else you heard about tonight impacts our students. The space, the conditions of our buildings, the impact on family, it all can affect student performance. The word I want to leave you with tonight is consistency. Students thrive on consistency. We do not have consistency with the current model. So please ask yourself, are we doing what is best for our kids? And right now, the bottom line is the current system is not what is best for our students. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Kelsey. Item 7.
Okay, we're going to invite the town council and the Board of Ed to ask any questions or have any comments that you have for the committee while they're here. We also have John Daig in the audience that can help us answer any questions. So if anybody would like to speak, we can go around. Does anybody want to speak or comment first? Councillor Hopkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I firstly want to say, I have a question. I would be interested in knowing, did the committee look at other schools in different towns that have used this model, and what are the benefits from that? Secondly, I do really think that our schools could increase the funding. There are a lot of things that I've heard and seen over the last year that suggest to me that I think we need to be spending more on our schools. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pisner?
I first want to say thank you to each and every one of you for the time and effort you put into this. If anybody knows me, they know that I believe that education is the greatest gift that we can give our kids. So with that said, I can also say that my daughters went through Enfield School System when it was the K through 6 model. And when they decided, my girls were in college when they decided that they were going to go to this model. And I was coaching little girl softball. And I remember sitting and talking to the parents saying, if I had young children in the school system, I would be at board meetings arguing, because I didn't think the model was going to work back then. You're separating families. You're taking exactly what Ms. Griffin said. You are me many years ago. So I appreciate everything you said tonight. And I can also say that going to pick up our granddaughter 2 days a week, there is a security issue. Our schools do need to be looked at, because if we don't put our kids first and do what's right, we're lacking in our town. A good school system is the starting point for your community. It's what drives people to want to live here, raise a family here. So I applaud you for your efforts, and I look forward to working on this more. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mangini?
Thank you. I want to thank the committee for the hard work that's ahead of you and what you've already laid the groundwork for. I had the opportunity to serve on consolidation committee, if you will, years ago, and it was decided years ago to break up into K through 2, 3 through 5. I was opposed to it then. I'm still opposed to it. I think that a couple of the speakers that did come forward really hit home when they spoke about consistency. Children do need consistency. And community. Children do need the community feel. They need to have that comfort level. And granted, you know, our schools, the brick and mortar, are 50, 60 years old, and it's time. We need to move forward. And the cost alone, I think, quite honestly, we're going to benefit far better, not only in serving our children's needs, but also financially. So I say, yes, let's go forward. And again, thank you, for the hard work that you're going to be doing. It's going to be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Dr. Kalnin?
One of the themes that I got listening to all four speakers was the impact that this is having on our kids' mental health. And I think that's really important, because there's been so much discussion about mental health intervention, and sometimes we just overlook the obvious. I mean, it's so ever present that we just don't see it, what an impact the environment, the school environment, can have on our children's mental health. And so I think this initiative can go a long way. Not entirely the way, but certainly will make a significant impact on our children's mental health and their readiness to learn.
Thank you. Mr. Hamre?
Excuse me. Thank you very much. to the School Modernization Committee. When we met at Hazardville last week, I had a very simple statement. The situation that we're in now was predictable and avoidable. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on that. When that reorg was in discussion before, I was in those very seats. I was with Tina to say, we don't want this, it doesn't work out. We were concerned for our children and that sense of community that is so integral to the development of the child. So it's nice that we have this opportunity to put the children first, to get them on a track that provides future generations with a more holistic approach to their well-being. And I love following Dr. Callanan here when he speaks, because he touches on the mental health issues better than I ever can. But it's nobody could have predicted what mental health in children could be today when reorg happened so many years ago. I'm very glad that we are having this discussion and that we have the real prospect of bringing back a program that is logical, sensible, and for the best interests of the children. And to the intense amount of meetings and school visits that you've had over the last week and a half, I only made it to the one because I was everywhere else, but I appreciate the amount of time and commitment that you put into it, and what may become a very long process moving forward, but for all the right reasons, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamre. Anyone? Mr. Councilor Despard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very impressed by this presentation. Thank the committee for your work. One of the things I feel most passionately about when I think about Enfield and our future is our ability to attract young families here. And I think modernizing our schools will do that. And then above all else, in today's day and age, our staff and our kids deserve state-of-the-art security. That's just a given, and I think this is a home run. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Ms. Pickett?
Sorry, I got emotional. I'm one of those parents sitting in this getting ready to transition year. So both of my kids are in Enfield Street School, and next year I am dreading the split. We have a really amazing after-school routine where we meet up with our friends and we play on the playground. And the moms and I, there's quite a few of us who are actually going to be in this split. So we're like, how are we going to do this? Maybe you pick up those kids and I'll pick up ours, and we'll meet someplace. Because the true impact that it has on being able to build relationships and feel a sense of community is really getting torn apart. So I was having a moment there because Maureen really grabbed me, and then Kelsey, I was in my mom moment. And I'm just so proud of the work that you all did and can't thank you enough. I apologize. I did not make it to any, so I'll be honest. It's been a tough week for my family, but I know many of these buildings. I've been inside of them. I've been a consumer of them. And so everything you said was spot on. And it's funny because I made a list coming tonight. I'm a list maker. Love the way you guys organized your thoughts and the work that you did. I came up with 6 and you came up with 4, and many of them were the same. So it just goes to say the amazing work that you've done. A couple of things that I just want to put in space, because that's who I am. One is really thinking about accessibility features. How are we ensuring that our schools truly create an environment where all are welcomed, all able-bodied, unable, our languages that are represented, really thinking about accessibility features, and I know that's impacted currently. Really thinking about the efficiency and inclusion of our staffing and our supports and our programming. Right now, families are torn depending if your student is part of a specific program, so you might not be going to your home school. So really thinking about how can we design this to really be efficient, but also ensure that sense of belonging and inclusion that so many of you mentioned. Safety and security was on my list. I visit a lot of schools professionally. I see a lot of spaces. I've even seen our 2 newer spaces. And there's a lot of things that are out there that if you're reconstructing and doing things differently, we can think a lot smarter. And prevention is our our best key. A couple things for me is really about probably after the fact planning, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Drezek, thinking about fifth grade transition. So if we have this K-5 model, we're really bringing kids up, from kindergarten up to fifth. We know that next transition year is really hard. So how can we address kind of programming there? Not a question you need to answer now. The next piece is really about alignment. So even if we do this, there's still going to be various schools. There's not going to be one K-5 building. How can we ensure that this alignment is happening in a K-5 way, and then that vertical alignment in our middle school and high school, to really create that kind of sense of whole district framework. And then I'm going to plead on the strings of the community members who might not have kids in school, because I get why people are like, why does this matter to us? I was in a town today where the mayor of that town said to me, we're really trying hard to get new businesses in town. And the first thing they say to me is, what are the schools like in your community? Because our folks are going to want to come here and they're going to want their kids to go to school here. And so that is one huge piece is around business, but it's also about, this is a sense of our future. I look at so many of our teachers, they come back here and work here. We want to create this sense of community where we invest in our future here. So I do have two maybe questions that do need to be answered. And one is really about process and next steps. A huge piece for me about why I supported this committee is that there was true engagement from all partners. So I think whatever next steps are done, my hope is that this kind of community involvement in decision making would be included. So I'm sure that we'll have this next step conversation next. The next is really, I'm looking at the town side, this building repurposing. We have current buildings that are sitting open now. And this plan will not go over in the community if we don't have a real good plan about what we're doing with our buildings. So it's not just about what's best for the K-5 model, but the reality is what are we going to do with what we got? So those are my two questions. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Deputy Mayor Sakala?
Very briefly, just first, thank you very much to the committee members, the volunteers, the teachers, the staff. Thank you to the Board of Ed for bringing this forward. I think it is extremely important as somebody who had their kids go through the K-2, 3 to 5 model. Even though they're both in high school, there was a lot of transitioning, a lot of nights where we need to divide and conquer, missing events, things like that. I love the fact that we're doing this right. You're getting the input of the teachers and the staff and the families that are really the ones that are impacted, and I think that is incredibly important. So I appreciate this happening in a planful manner. I know it will continue to do that. We have a beautiful new high school. We have a brand new middle school. Now it is time to do the elementary schools. So I think two really great things are happening here. Not only are we sounding like we're going to go back to that K-5 model, which seems like it was so much more efficient and worked better than the split schools, and we're hopefully going to improve these facilities and rebuild as new and get these kiddos in the younger years some state-of-the-art facilities like we have for the older kids.
Thank you. Councilor Santinella?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to the committee for all of the work that you have done. I had an opportunity to visit some of the schools myself. I had not been in some of our buildings in a long time. And it really does beg the question, how did we get here? It was tragic, some of the conditions that we saw, some of the conditions of the facilities, some of the work conditions for our faculty. It's really just unacceptable. And as I said to the committee last night, and I've said to many of you, we can talk about the outside, but we need to have a very serious conversation about the inside. As I told the committee last evening, we have one of the poorest funded school districts in the state on a per student basis. In our DIRG, we are one of the lowest funded school districts. As an alliance district, we are one of the lowest funded school districts. And so I have to say, as we do this, and I say this to you, Madam Chair, and to you, Mr. Drezek, your budget is unacceptable. We need to start moving in the right direction. There's no point in putting up nice fancy buildings if what's going on inside of the buildings isn't meeting the standards of the outside. So it's time to look at the budget. It's time to educate the public on why we need to start spending more on our kids. Because you just need to walk through some of those buildings and you need to say to yourself, we're betting against our kids. And it's wrong. No one bet against me. And I did pretty well. So There's no reason why we can live in this town and continue to bet against our kids like that. So go take a look at your budget and start moving it in the right direction, because we're not doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ungary?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple comments. I'm really excited about this project, seeing that we have a wonderful middle school and state-of-the-art high school. This is so long overdue, and I think in Enfield we have the most amazing teachers. Nobody works harder than Enfield teachers. A lot of them I know and have met throughout my time here. I've seen teachers take very little and make much with it, and even to the point of bringing in some of their own supplies. And my hat is off to them. And for our elementary schools to be revamped and make it easier for our students, our teachers, I just think it's wonderful. Some of our teachers have to work in conditions that were far from perfect. So I'm really excited about revamping this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ungary. Ms. Acree?
I just want to say thank you very much, the committees. Your presentations were great, informative, and yes, the Enfield students and the teachers do deserve the best that we can offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Mayor Crisati?
Well, good evening, everyone, and I'd like to thank, first of all, Superintendent Drezek, months ago, having the vision to start thinking about this particular modernization program. It was brought to our attention through leadership. We've had some discussions on it. John Daig, I'd like to give you a round of applause for all of the work that you have done, John. Above and beyond all the time and effort that you have put in. And I really stress to everybody, please take a look at his presentations that he did present to the Board of Ed. Everybody needs to take a look at that, and it's very impressive. When I look at this modernization program, I'm looking at the investment to our town, to the school system, to attract families that want to come here. I think that's utmost importance. You touched upon 4 major areas. You talked about academics. You talked about space. We talked about the facilities and family impact. Thank you for the presentation that you presented, all 4 of you. So thank you for that. Very informative. There's a very talented group that's on this committee. They know what they're talking about. They're informative. And remember, this is the first step. We can't be looking past anything else. This is the first step to say that we are all in agreement for the K-5 model. We've heard it. We've heard the reports. We've seen statistics. We've seen budget-wise, we're not spending enough on our students, and I totally agree with that, Councilor Santinella, and thanks for the presentation that you gave yesterday. Very informative. That we have to make a commitment to education. It's very important. We talk about routines. We're talking about transitions. We're talking about the impact that we have on families. I was teaching during that time frame when they wanted to go to this K2, 3, 5. Dead set against it. I don't think it benefited anybody. It put families at ease. There's a lot of tension. People thrive with routines, and when routines have to change, and when you have 3 or 4, families had 3 or 4 transitions during the course of a day, that is very stressful to a family. Never mind if somebody's not feeling well. So when you touch upon the base of mental health, all of this has to take into consideration. I am happy that we're sitting here representing the Town Council, Board of Ed, and everybody with the vision of moving forward with this program. All these other questions will be answered, but one step at a time. Our job tonight will be, in a little while, we will take this recommendation for feasibility and demographic study on all of the schools, the 6 schools. So let's move forward with it. It's very exciting. We're looking at stopping the Band-Aid bleed. Let's look into the investment to the future and for the future of this town and our students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Crisati. Mr. Ryder?
So I also wanted to thank John Begg for all his work on this, and I also wanted to thank Fred Gerber as well from the town side. He was our town liaison. John, of course, was our school liaison. And I wanted to clarify the rush of the schedule, the condensed schedule over this week and last. That's not where these ideas came from. That's not where the recommendation of the School Modernization Committee came from. That's over a year of work from John. That's a decade of working in the buildings from our teachers. So thank you to our infield teachers, our infield administrators. This isn't something that we thought of last Tuesday and then came up with an idea last night to present. This is something that's a long time coming. So this wasn't a decision that we came to in a rushed manner, and this will not be something that we fix in a rushed manner. This will be strategic and purposeful. We want to do the same thing we did with the high school that we did with JFK for not only our K-5 schools, but for Stowe as well. And it's not one person's fault how we got here, and I don't even care at this point how or why or when that happened. It's irrelevant. Now it's time to figure out what we're going to do for the next 4 to 5 to 6 generations of students that are going to learn in this town. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday or 10 years ago or 11 school years ago when this changed. What matters is what we can do to make these buildings what could be and have those last for the next 50, 60, 70 years. And I want the teachers that were on this committee who learned here in Enfield and decided to be teachers themselves and then teach where they grew up. And they're probably in the same buildings they were in. And then the older teacher that might still be in their building is in the same teacher she matriculated in if she learned here as well. And I just think it's time that we end that cycle. And it's important for everybody to understand that without the town council's help, and as the vice chair of the JV team, I want to welcome the varsity team to our meeting. But without the town council's help, we can't do the studies that are needed to even take this to the next step. So it's my ask of them that they at least let us get to the next step, find out what properties might make sense, what the costs might be, where these buildings should be, how to educate our kids and their kids if these buildings end up fixed and right for the next 50 to 60 or 70 years. So I know a few questions are thrown out, starting with Councilor Hopkins. Amanda, yes, and that's fair. We honestly can't get to your questions until we do more research. But again, our schedule was rushed. Our decision was not. Our need is rushed. But the future can be bright. And I just hope that the varsity team feels the same. So, thank you.
That's something Mr. Ryder has said about us on the Board of Ed since he got on the Board of Ed. I always thought that was funny. I just want to just say a few words. We met at Hazardville last week. Mr. Ryder and I called the applicants to tell them, and we kind of put out right away, this is going to be a rigorous schedule, and none of you on the committee even batted an eyelash. We'll be there. Just tell us what we need to do. I think it was what we had agreed upon is that we needed to see every building. We couldn't just assume what a building looked like. And I know after I left some buildings and saw how support services were divided by a divider, it made me really kind of sad, but it also made me proud that we have teachers, support workers, and staff that keep their focus on the students and do what they have to do, although the conditions aren't perfect. Seeing a school psychologist have a closet for an office. It was really eye-opening. We've heard of the space issues, but until you see it, and we wanted every committee member to see every single school so that they could say, we saw every single school. I think that was an extremely important facet of this. One thing I can say about this committee is they are very eager. They want to move on to the next steps, but we all got a little bit grounded and we said first things first. This first thing, as we spoke about, is a long line of the work that this committee is going to be able to do. It seemed like we moved quickly to get there, and this part, we kind of halt a little bit, but then we're going to pick up again, hopefully, and we're going to put in a different kind of work and have really great discussions around that. I just wanted to say, a couple more things. As Mr. Ryder said, this is a long-term plan, a long-term vision. Originally, when the schools were redistricted and reformatted, the teachers were told in December for a June end of school year for a September move, and that's when the families found out. I think the families may have found out in March or April. This is not how this is going to go. The other thing I want to stress to people that are watching, and we've talked about it to the community members, is this is not an elected official or a politically driven committee. All the decisions are being made by the voting members of the committee. The Board of Ed and Town Council liaisons are liaisons, just that. They do not vote. So it's the research and the will of the committee. We can give our advice and we can give our input, but it's ultimately the will of the committee. It's important to have staff input, as we've all said, but it's also important to have that community input. One of the things that I have found interesting was listening to the teacher speak at Hazardville. Was that first night we had like a longer meeting. We really kind of got into the nuts and bolts of what our current configuration is that as a parent who had a student go to second grade for 1 year because their school closed and a student go to fifth grade for 1 year, to hear what the teachers were actually feeling as they were alone in a building with all new colleagues, but still showed up and smiled, met new parents, and worked just as hard for our students. But they were struggling and they didn't feel supported, and we're not going to allow that to happen again. And as a parent, I wouldn't have known. I was very grateful to the teachers who showed up and smiled and didn't let any parent know how you were feeling, because the parents weren't feeling exactly great about it either. And lastly, I appreciate Counselor Santinella's presentation on where Enfield lies as the funding goes. Yes, we are one of the lowest funded districts in the state of Connecticut, but what we've learned post-COVID is we have very high needs, and those needs are continuing to grow. And like Scott said, we're not going to revisit the past and how we got here, but I think that we know as a district how to fix it and what we can do to move forward as a team between the town council and the Board of Ed. This needs to be a community effort and a group effort with the elected officials. With that, again, we can't answer some questions, but I do want to thank the committee. I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you being candid, whether you're a staff member or a parent, and asking tough questions and really putting your feelings out there. That was important for us to be able to get this work done. And I look forward to being your liaison in months to come. So that's all I have. So I'll move to item number 7, new business. Item A, Mr. Ryder. Recommendation from the Pre-K through 5 School Modernization Committee.
So we took a poll last night before our working meeting even began, and with the overwhelming majority of the committee has asked us to move forward to present this idea to town council, to get these buildings in better shape, to look at consolidation of the K-5 buildings. And at this point, I believe that the recommendation from the PK5 School Modernization Committee is to ask the Board of Education first to bless this and then forward it to the town council to make a decision.
So moved? Is that the right thing?
We don't have to take a
Never mind.
motion. It's really.
I was
gonna-
just, as a liaison, I was forwarding their thoughts to you all.
So they're recommending that we revisit the K through 5 configuration for our elementary schools. That is the formal recommendation from the committee.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely. Ms.
Sorry,
Pickett?
I asked if I could ask a clarifying question because that's always me. So you just said K5. So what the recommendation is then is to keep preschool and move to a K5 model. Is that what we're?
We would not be combining pre-K with grades K through 5.
Okay. Yeah.
There's different requirements, and that's not what we're looking to do. Although we are also looking to modernize our pre-K facility, but separately, we're looking to combine K2 and 3-5 again to be a K5 model.
Perfect.
I literally just heard Ms. Pickett and Dr. Kellnan let out a huge sigh of relief. Dr. Kellnan reclined back.
Well, I
was ready because I saw their eyes.
Well, I would say, Tina, I was going to add, and you reminded me, I had written a little note here sorry, I don't want to mess up people's names. Vicky was mentioning the space issues and mentioned Stowe in particular. And I would say, for a building with many barriers, that is the most magical place in our whole district. So even with really cruddy space and cramping it all in, I will go to Stowe any day of the week, hands down. So that just speaks to the folks we have in our schools.
Thank you.
Seconded.
You seconded.
So that is the School Modernizations Committee's recommendation.
So the board will not need to take action this evening. Does anybody from the board have any final comments? So what's going to happen next is the board is going to adjourn their meeting. Mayor Crissati is going to take over and open a meeting of the town council. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second. Sorry, Ken. So moved.
Second.
Moved by
Third.
Mr. Hamry, seconded by Ms. Pickett. Board of Ed, show of hands, please.
Board of Ed only.
I know we're a cool.
Thank you.
You can join us anytime.
Mayor Crissati.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Vice Chair, thank you very much. We're now moving on to our section for the Town Council special meeting. The purpose of our meeting tonight is to move on the recommendation from the K-5 School Modernization Committee. Once again, just, everybody's heard it. The committee has recommended that the elementary schools be evaluated for future use. And on their April 5th board meeting, the Board of Ed once again recommended that the district demographics feasibility studies be updated per state requirements. We are, with the recommendation, with that endorsement of the Board of Ed and the Enfield Town Council, and I think I'm going to bring this to the town manager, and then we will move forward. Before we get this, can we just do a town council roll call? I know we did it at the beginning.
Yeah, that's me.
If we can do it again.
She doesn't work
Yep.
for you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
She's JV.
Superintendent Drezek, not in my book. She will never, ever be JV. She's varsity material all the way.
Kathy is the motor that keeps the Board of Ed running, let me tell you.
Kathy, we appreciate you. Yes.
I've been there a long time.
So roll call. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Mayor Crissati.
Here.
Councilor Despard.
Here.
Councilor Finger. Absent. Councilor Hopkins.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig. Here. Councilor Mangini. Here. Councilor Nelson.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella. Here. Councilor Ungary. Here. Is there a quorum present?
Okay, thank you. Item 2, we are here to receive information from the Board of Education regarding approving any additional studies based on the recommendation from the Pre-K 5 School Modernization Committee. And I will now turn it over to Town Manager Ellen Zapusasso.
Good evening. We've been monitoring the situation from the town side of the equation, and tonight it's really nice to see everybody sitting together because as much as we're talking varsity and JV, at the end of the day, we are actually partners, and the town budget is comprised of halves that come together to form a total picture of what a community's needs are. And I think that it's really important for all of us to realize that the Board of Education budget is an asset to the town, not a burden, and that all of us, from an intergenerational standpoint, need to come together to realize that this is an investment. It's an investment in our future, it's an investment in our infrastructure, and it's an investment in the policy making that all of you have been vested in and are elected to do. So we had some internal meetings today, and I know that a lot of this was very fast moving in order to get to the next stages and to see where this process takes us. In consideration of what has to happen and the RFP process that has to be undertaken and the two different paths that you'd like to pursue in order to secure the information that all of you will need to make decisions, we are recommending to use a number of up to $200,000 in order to not stall the process if, in fact, costs come back a little higher than some of the original numbers that were bandied about. This does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we think that these studies are going to cost up to that, but it's going to give us the flexibility to continue to pursue that and not have any snags in the process in terms of some of the pricing that might happen. Some of you may realize there's a very narrow window of places that we can go for this, and also due to the infusion of so much in infrastructure dollars, there's a lot of work being done by a lot of firms. So we are also very concerned about positioning this so that we actually get the services done by a provider that we trust and with data that we can trust. So all of that was put into that amount that you see in front of you, and then we encourage you to adopt it as printed.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have a resolution. Councilor Mangini?
Thank you, Town Manager Ellen, for your explanation. One question, though. What if it exceeds the 200,000? Will you come at that point, or do you feel that the 200 is sufficient to start the process?
I do feel comfortable with that number without the fear of having to stop process, come back, schedule special meetings in order to get, any type of additional appropriation or even go through a bid waiver process. Because at this point, none of that seems feasible. And I do think that we would get a better price by going out and being competitive on the market for these two reports.
So you're comfortable with this?
I am.
Thank you.
In conjunction with our Public Works Department as well as our Finance Director, we met with them this morning on this and bandied it about for quite a long time to make sure that we were honed in on what we thought these components were.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a resolution that I'm going to read. Be it resolved that the Town Council authorizes the RFPs for two studies, a facility feasibility study and an updated demographic study not to exceed $200,000. Date prepared February 2nd, 2023. Excuse me. Well,
if you could just use today's date. I was a little bit in a rush because Superintendent Drezek made the varsity team create the resolutions.
April 5th, 2023. Prepared by Ellen Zapusasu, Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Nelson, and a second by Councilor Despard. Any further discussion on the resolution? Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. I noted this as required by the state language. Could you talk a little bit about that? I was kind of curious what that.
Is that regarding the demographic?
Yes.
So we need to do those studies in order to keep advancing and then eventually go to the state with our plan and a request for funding.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think this is a really important first step. I appreciate the committee's work in thinking about what this might look like for our town. I think going forward, we'll continue to have discussions with residents and taxpayers about, the increased cost of running a good school in Enfield. It's so important to have that kind of support for children. I work in juvenile justice. I see kids who often don't have those supports at home, and schools can be incredibly important for development and creating kids who are well-adjusted and productive members of the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Ellen, roll call.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sakala?
4.
Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Hopkins?
4.
Counselor Ludwig? 4. Counselor Mangini? 4. Counselor Nelson?
4.
Counselor Pisner?
4.
Counselor Santinella? 4. Counselor Ungary? 4. Okay. The motion is approved, 10-0.
Well, once again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the committee members. Thank you to everybody that's been involved. We got a long road ahead of us. And, yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yeah. I always have to say a couple of words before. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Counselor Nelson, and a second, Counselor Mangini. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.